What's going on out there, my fellow exiled field techs? So we're back here for another video. A lot of you guys, I know you're doing the same thing I am. You're struggling. We just got notification that they're opening up 25% capacity on a lot of the businesses this weekend. Unfortunately for me, that doesn't mean a whole lot. Until the movie theaters go back to, where they're running and gunning like crazy, we probably won't be calling me back. So hopefully that'll happen sooner rather than later. But still, as usual, trying to keep myself busy. And I got an interesting one for you. I was cleaning out my shop earlier, and I thought to myself, I bet I could build a pretty decent gaming machine out of some of this garbage that's laying around. Let's check it out. Let's see what we can come up with, and let's see what we can build. Here we go. So my son the other day was at his apartment complex, and he was taking his trash out, and he noticed a peculiar item just sitting next to the bin. They hadn't thrown it in. They left it sitting next to the big can. Check this thing out, guys. This is an old server case. And as you can see, it's a full tower case. I don't know what brand it is. All I get is made in China. And it is definitely a cheaper brand because, as you can see, it's got a plastic case. It's kind of flimsy. It's not super solid. And a lot of the accessories are missing for, hard drive mounting and so on and so forth. But that's okay. We can make this work. So I thought to myself, well, this would be a really good start to a let's see what we can put together video, right? So we're going to start with that. So, of course, now we've got our case. We're going to need a motherboard. So check this out. I had a kid that came in here, I want to say it was probably about 4 or 5 months ago, and we went ahead and upgraded his motherboard and put in a brand new super hot Ryzen board. But what he had in his system was actually this. Now, I don't know what processor this is, but when we changed it, I did keep the I/O shield. So let's take a look at it and see if we can figure out what this is. Without pulling off the fan, because I really don't want to go too crazy on this till we know what we got. I know that it's an Intel processor. I don't know what speed yet. We're going to know here shortly. Looks like we've got an MSI board, an H110M Pro. Decent little micro board. I mean, they're okay. I had a couple issues with these at one point in the past. I don't like only having 2 memory channels, but that's not going to be a huge problem based on our project right now. It does have PCI Express. It does have 4 SATA connections for 4 drives, which is fine. It's got a couple extra PCI Express along with all the external ports. And one thing that I did like about this, and I'm going to show Stumpy this, it's only got the standard 4-pin motherboard connection instead of the 8 or the 6. And since we're going to have to use a power supply that I've got in stock, that worked out real well. Like I said, I don't know, other than the fact that I know it functions, I don't know much about it. We're going to find out as we go. We're going to have some RAM. And this does use DDR4. So we'll go to the magic RAM box down here. And let's see what we got here. Patriots. Okay. We have got a Patriot, looks like a Patriot Signature 4 gig stick. And that should be fine for this process. Yeah, nothing fancy, nothing special, no flashy lights or LEDs, but what the heck, right? All right, so there we go. We'll go ahead and use that. Now, one thing I do want to do, if we're going to go ahead and do this, is based on the fact that I don't know what this is, I want to go ahead and use at least 1 solid-state drive. So I've got in my little box of goodies here a little Kingston 240. This is going to be our primary hard drive on this one. And then I've got a Seagate 500 gigger sitting back here. I thought I had a terabyte, but as it turns out, I only had a 500 gig mechanical for storage. So those will be our 2 hard drives. And of course, we're going to need a video card. Now on this one, as it turns out, in my pile of stuff I had forgotten all about, and you guys have seen it on my bench here before, I had a Gigabyte RX 580. Now, regardless of what this system is, this will give it a little bit of punch when it comes to playing games. But check this out, guys, something I found comical. Here's the video card. Here's the motherboard. The video card is actually about the same size as the motherboard, about 3/4 of the size. Gotta love that, right? All right, so got all of our beginnings of our system here. We're going to have a power supply. I do have, let's see here. Yeah, I've got a Apivia VN500 water. And I believe that this one will work out okay. And I'll tell you why, because it does appear to have the 8 pins we're going to need for this gigabyte video card. So that was good news. We got that. As well as a standard 4-pin connector for the motherboard. And it looks like everything, yeah, looks like this is going to have everything that we're going to need. All right. So let's go ahead and let's case this thing up slowly and let's see what we got to work with, shall we? All right, guys. So looking down in this case right here, I've got it cracked open. Looks like that is the shield for over the top of the power supply. There's a lot of cable management space in here. I really wish I knew what board this or what case this actually was. Let's go ahead and put in our I/O shield here. And for those who don't know, that goes in from the back forward. All right. And it looks like they left some of the mounting screws here, although I suspect we're going to need these two also. So let me take a look at the board here, and let's see what we're going to need. And yes, that is correct. We're going to need those two also. So what we're going to do is we'll take the other two out of these, which, by the way, these were finger tight, which is kind of nice. And we'll mount this here. We're missing a lot of the shields on the back here, but that's not a huge problem. I think I got a few of those sitting back in my inventory back there. You know how that is. Okay. And we'll mount this right here. And my goal here is I want to try to make a decent, low-cost, mid-range gaming computer. It's all going to depend on that processor, though. That's the big key, so we'll see. All right, let's get this mounted up. There we go. Man, that will be perfect. I tell you guys, this is actually kind of comical. Once we get this all put in here, I'll turn this thing sideways. You got to see how small that board is in this case. It's like David and Goliath, man, this little teeny thing here. So, all right, 1 second. We're going to go ahead and get this screwed down and mounted, and we'll move to the next step. Okay, so as you can see, we've got the board is actually now secured down. I got to tell you, I would have preferred to use black screws on this just because of the way the inside of this looks. Unfortunately, I don't have any, so they had to go with silver on that. Let's go ahead and mount our RAM while we're here. There we go. All right, and ordinarily I would probably go ahead and mount the video card, but given the fact that we got to figure out where everything else goes, let's not do that. All right, so what I'm going to do is flip this up on its side. We're going to see where we're going to mount the solid state drive. All right, folks. Hopefully Stumpy is actually getting a good shot of this. This is kind of good news right here because the way this is all mounted, given the fact that we are missing a couple of these little quick releases for the hard drives, we do actually have one, which is great. Actually, I think we've got two. I think I saw another one over here. Yeah, we got two. We should be able to go ahead and get the hard drives mounted here, at least one of them. We're going to put the solid state right here. So let me get that solid state drive mounted, and we'll continue forward. One thing I want to show you guys, I just realized myself, this design on this hard drive mounting is actually pretty cool. So as you can see, the drive is mounted in here, but check this out. Normally you've got like either a hook in and kind of pivot style screw down on the solid state drive mounts. But in this case, what you've got is little rubber feet on the back that have got little connectors on it. See that? How they're bigger and smaller? So you literally just put this on and slide it into place. That's pretty neat. I don't know what brand this case is, but okay so far. All right, so what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and mount the standard mechanical drive in one of these bays and continue forward. All right, so as you can see, we now have the mechanical drive mounted. Now, this was a little challenging because this case does come with plastic brackets, and I did a little research on this. On these little bands, you can see it says here, Phanteks, P-H-A-N-T-E-K-S. So that's the brand of the case, and it did come with these, but we don't have them, so this is going to work fine. It's not going to go anywhere. That's what counts. So, all right, the next step is we've already got the hard drives mounted in here. Let's go ahead and take a look at how everything is going to sit with the power supply in here. And I'm assuming that based on the location of this, and hopefully Stumpy's picking this up here because this thing is huge, power supply is just going to sit right here. This thing does have one thing that's actually pretty cool about it. It's got this gigantic fan on the front of it, so hopefully that'll keep this thing cool. I'm curious as to why somebody threw this away. Anybody else out there? I guess we'll find out shortly, huh? Probably because it was just too darn big. All right, guys, so one thing I noticed, and you know, this is why I try to do this stuff live for you guys on the fly. I'm using all used parts, so I hadn't actually looked at this until just now. But if you look at this power supply, you've got a standard 24-pin from the motherboard, and then you've got what appears to be an 8-pin connector which would in theory connect to your video card, because the Gigabyte has got an 8-pin connector right here, and I'll show Stumpy that. Okay. The problem is that's not what we're looking at. What we're looking at is the standard 24-pin, and this is actually two 4-pin connectors. This is the motherboard connection. So and everything else on here, as you can see, is standard power cables for the hard drives. So this one isn't going to work. Once again, I'm glad I noticed it now and not in 10 minutes when I had everything mounted up and I started plugging it all in. But I did have, and I went back here into my little box of goodies, and I found an old Thermaltake. This used to be on one of my Bitcoin mines. It's a Thermaltake Smart 750, as Stumpy can see. Now, this is a brutal power supply. This one's really, really good. The only disadvantage to this one is there's nothing modular, as you can see. So it's like a bunch of hair you got to deal with. But it's black, and this has pretty good cable management. So we're going to go ahead and use this power supply. I wanted to show you guys this, though, just to show you that as you're going in a project, things can change on the fly. You've seen me do that before with other projects, like, for instance, the VicBerry, when I did the conversion on the Commodore VIC-20. And for those of you who haven't seen it, I will post a link up here for you. I had to change it. About midway through it, everything was going great, and one little board wasn't doing what it was supposed to, so I had to kind of redesign it as I went. That's the way these projects go. So don't be frustrated, just keep moving forward. All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and mount this power supply and get this one out, and then we will take the next step. Okay, folks, so as you can see, we have got the new power supply mounted. Like I said, it really kind of hurt using this one. This is a very nice power supply, and I had aspirations of building another Bitcoin mine when it comes back up for it, but this is more important right now, so we're going to get this project on par here. All right, so the cool thing is the way this is routed. I was looking at this. All these wires actually route out through the back, and all of the cabling happens back here. This is where your cable concealment is, and this little panel goes up over the top of it. I mean, this is actually a pretty cool design. I'm going to look into this manufacturer and see what the story is with these guys, because it's a pretty neat design. It really is. So, all right, well, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and we're going to get the video card mounted, and we're going to start cabling this thing up real quick so we can see what it's going to look like. So what we're going to do is let's start with the hard drives and this massive fan. Hopefully Stumpy is picking this thing up. There's this big fan right here that's driven by this power cable. So what we got to do is get it routed first. And it was coming really high, but since we're on a little motherboard, we're going to have to change that routing a tad. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and get some cabling done over here and get everything cabled up and plugged in the back, and then we'll move to the front. Okay, so moving along. As you can see, I've actually got the serial ATA cables in for both the SSD drive and for the mechanical drive. We've got all the power connected up. We've got all the cables running from the front panel up here and onto the inside of the case. Now, we're going to cable all this up here in a little bit and make it look pretty. But for right now, let's flip it around. And as you can see, I've already brought in the power cable and the front side USB 3.0. That's what these two cables are right here. I've brought in the two serial ATA drives on drive 1 and 2. And I've also got all the power connections, LEDs, hard drive LEDs, so on and so forth, as well as the HD audio and the front side standard USB. So all cables are in place right now. These are the ones that are going to have to be concealed in this area. So you can probably tell why I'm kind of glad we had that little panel over there. So, all right, the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and cable up the back of this thing, and then we can go ahead and move to the front exclusively and get it all done. So let me get that done, and we will move on. Okay, so now that we've got the back cabled up and everything is in here where it's not going to go flopping around and it's nice and secure, we're going to go ahead and put the back on this and then focus on the other side. Here we go. All right, so as you can see, we now have our video card mounted. I went ahead and I ran our power cables from the video card up back through the back like we did the other system. The reason we did that is because obviously it's a whole lot cleaner in here, which is great, but also because this power supply was designed to run 5 video cards. So needless to say, as you can see, I've actually got the 8-pin in, but there's another 8-pin right here, and then there's actually 4 more down here. So that's what this is really designed for. So this is way overkill for this system, but what the heck, right? We're doing it. Let's see what we can do. All right, so the last step on this is to go ahead and put in this mounting panel down here and clean up this cabling. So let me get this all cleaned up, and then we're going to fire it up together. Let's see if we see any smoke, or if it even works at all. Who knows? Here we go. All right, guys. So before I button this up and plug it in, I got to make a couple of comments here. I had never heard of this company, and now I'm kind of ashamed that I'd never heard of this company. I love the way this is. I mean, look how clean this all came out. It's beautiful. It's the way it's supposed to be inside of a case. Move Stumpy over here so you can get a proper view. I mean, nice and clean. One thing I love about this is, though, even though we're building this out of parts that we've got, the cool thing is that this could be expanded. It could be reused. This case is actually a hugely popular case. So I did a little bit of research on this, and I found the site where this came from. This case is called a Phanteks Ethu Pro Full Tower Chassis with Windows. It's a $140 case. So whoever it was that threw this away, thank you. It's great. I now see why. I mean, it's fully modular. You know, I do wish they had used tempered glass on the side instead of plastic. You know how that scratches up. But aside from that, this turned into a product review. Who would have known? It's got a monster fan case up here. It's like a 110 millimeter fan case. I'm going to see if you guys can get that fan. Which, you know, we've actually seen in some of the Corsair cases. We've seen in some of the other series where they got those giant fans in the front to pull that air in. What it didn't have was a fan to pull air out the back. Now, I don't necessarily know if it didn't have it or if somebody had a water cooling system in this, which is what I would have done on this particular system. Whatever it is, man, kudos to these guys. They did a fantastic job on this case. So I'm going to drop a link since I located this thing. I'm going to drop a link in the description down here so you guys can check them out. I am floored. So, yeah. This is going to be sitting here at the shop. I may use this for something else. We'll see how powerful it is. But, all right, well, enough blowing smoke up their heinies. But let's go ahead and turn this around. I'm going to fire it up and check out the BIOS to see what we're dealing with first. And then I'm going to go ahead and load Windows 10. Here we go. All right, folks. As you can see, we are actually in the MSI BIOS here. Looks like it is identifying both our primary and secondary hard drives. Ironically, the time is correct. That kind of caught me off guard. It's got our 4 gigs of RAM identified with a 2.1 gigahertz speed, so that's correct. Let's see here. Onboard LAN is enabled. See, a lot of this stuff is probably already configured by default. It looks like this BIOS was defaulted, so it's got all of it in there. Now, one thing I am curious about is our CPU. Oh, that is an Intel i5-6400 running 2.7 gigahertz, and it is unlocked. We could overclock this one, guys. We probably won't for this video, but the thing is, this is an i5-6400. If it's truly running at 2.7 with that RX 580, this could run VR and actually run it really well. So pretty cool. All right, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to load Windows 10 on this thing. I'm going to spare you guys the hassle of watching that. And then we're going to come back together and let's see how it runs. I'm kind of looking forward to it myself. So don't go anywhere. And here we are in Windows 10. So the entire load on this system from initial load to actually booting into the desktop and loading the Radeon drivers, I went ahead and did that. As well as the Windows updates was about 27 minutes. So that's pretty darn good. As you can see, we've got an Intel i5-6400 running 2.7 gigahertz, 4 gigs of RAM. It looks like we are pretty solid. All device drivers are loaded. The 580 is in there. And overall, let's see what our performance is looking like just sitting idle like this. So sitting idle like this, we're running, right now I've got some updates running in the background from Windows. Obviously, I know a lot of you guys have seen that before, so this will probably be running all night doing Windows updates. You love that. So your hard drive is always going to read a little bit high. There are a couple of caveats to that. Obviously, Superfetch and Windows Search can cause your hard drive to jump to 100 on Windows 10. One of these days, I'm going to do a video on just those to show people how to get rid of those because they're annoying. So other than that, as you can see, even with only 4 gigs of RAM in there, it's running pretty darn good right now. And it is running at full speed. I do find this interesting. Now, this is something I can't quite identify yet. Slots 1 of 4, but the motherboard only has 2 slots on it. So I'm not certain why Windows is identifying an extra 2 slots that don't exist. I'm assuming it has something to do with the memory channels, but whatever it is, it's really strange. So, yeah. But hey, no matter how you cut it, guys, what you got here is a decent VR-ready machine. This is a mid-range VR machine. I had no idea when I put it together. I'll probably drop 16 gigs of RAM in it, but beyond that, I don't see any reason not to run it here for VR at the shop. So we're going to go ahead and probably do that. So the moral of the story, check your components and parts laying around, man. You may have gold where you think you've got trash. And every one of these individual components, with the exception of that power supply, I didn't even know I had laying around here until I started going through stuff. So pretty cool, right? Build a decent gaming machine out of stuff you never even knew you had. No complaints here. Listen, keep an eye out for our next video. I've got something super, super cool coming out. You know, the Bake a Pie episodes seem to be very popular. You guys really like those. Well, I got some coming up that are going to blow your mind. I know for a fact I'll be the first person that is doing the conversions that I'm going to be doing on YouTube. And there's a lot to say for that, because a lot of people have, you can't say you're first for anything in YouTube. It's been around forever, right? So, all right, well, listen, have a fantastic week and a great weekend. Stay safe, guys. We're almost at the end of this thing. I can see that curve right there. We're about to leap over it and get back to work. So just stay safe and stay good out there. We'll be fine. We'll talk to you later. Bye-bye.